This is my syngonium albo, and today I'm going to be telling you how I keep it alive. Hello, my name's Balisa. Welcome to Plants and Things, where I talk about plants and things. So before I get into the actual plant care tips, I want to say the main ingredient to taking care of your plant is God-given curiosity. Like, be curious about your plant. If I or anyone else on the internet recommends something and you try it and it doesn't work for your plant, stop doing it. But if you have been doing something and somebody says that is the absolute worst thing to do for your plant and it's actually working for you, keep doing it. It's your plant. We're all growing it in different environments and it's a hobby. It's meant to be fun. So, have fun with it. But this is what I have found really works with this plant. So to start off with, in terms of the watering, this plant is a pretty big plant and it is in a tiny planter, and I have mentioned this before, I think I have. This is technically one plant with like 3 vines growing in this pot, and then there is another tiny little plant that is actually becoming like yellow, that has yellow variegation, which is absolutely the coolest thing ever. But it is one plant growing in this pot, and so it does tend to be thirsty, and the reason it could be thirsty is because it's a big plant and a small planter. But I have found this plant to be really thirsty, and so I water it when it is dry, and I am not an overwater exactly, but I do drench the plant when I water. I found that it's a really forgiving plant, so if you do have it be dry, like it's not so intense. Like, a lot of plants dry off, like if you leave the plant dry. Like, I know this with my trying to think of the word, my Bonnie spider plant. If you leave it a little bit dry, the tips start browning like it's crazy. So this plant is way more forgiving than that. You can let it dry out completely between waterings. I don't think I do that. I think I just let it dry out on the top and then I water it, and it's also fine with that. So I do think this is a plant that would be good for both overwaterers, underwaterers, people who drench their plants. So in terms of watering, it's really, really good. And in terms of fertilizing, I fertilize all my plants with the same balanced fertilizer, and I do it once or twice. No, not once. Once a week or once every 2 weeks. I was trying to think about what that means. So either I'm doing it 4 times a month or I'm doing it twice a month, and the plants are fine with that. So I don't give any of my plants special fertilizer. I know some people do. This still works for me and the plants are happy. And I used to be the type of person, I think in the first plant care video that I made, I used to be the type of person who fertilized plants in winter. And I think this winter, I'm seeing that the plants definitely don't absorb. I think this one might. So the whole point of not fertilizing in winter is because the plants aren't using the nutrients. So you're basically wasting. But this plant is continuing. It has still been growing slower than it does in summer and spring, but it's still been growing quite a lot. So I think maybe I will cut down the fertilizing to once a month now in winter, and not once a week. Once a week or twice. Wow. So what I meant is I will cut down fertilizing to once a month instead of 4 times a month at most. But I think if you still prefer to fertilize in the winter, it's not harmful to the plant. I can attest that it's not harmful to the plant. The worst thing you're doing is wasting fertilizer, which, you know what ifs. So that's that on the fertilizing. And in terms of the humidity, I, again, keep all my plants in the same room temperature humidity. The only special humidity, the only special humidity that plants get in this home is when they are in propagation boxes. And I do not have a humidity measuring tool. I don't know what it is called. The device that measures humidity. So I have no clue what the humidity in my home is right now, and it's winter. And our winters are dry, so the humidity is less now in winter. And the plants, all my plants are fine. But generally, if a plant needs more humidity, I would put it in a propagation box. But I'm not putting this cat in a propagation box. I want to see this cat all the time. So it lives in normal room temperature. In fact, all my syngoniums live in normal room temperature. Room temperature, room humidity. Like my tongue is like... it's just saying whatever it wants. So it's like work. So yeah, in terms of humidity, it's not fussy, but I've not ever known syngoniums to be fussy about humidity. I think the ones that I've seen are fussy are more fussy in terms of how much light they're getting. And that brings me to the whole thing of light. This plant can do both. It can do, I've grown it in direct bright light and I've grown it in indirect bright light. This plant is currently growing in indirect bright light and it's doing well enough. I think the problem with direct bright light, especially for the leaves that are more albo than green, is that the plant does get burned. So the white part would get burnt, like this gets burnt and curls up. And yeah, so it wouldn't look this good. I think all the white on this leaf have stayed pretty white. Even the older leaves have retained the whiteness and like not burnt at the tips and stuff. So, and I think that's because it's growing in indirect bright light. So that's the like, I think the give and take of the bright direct light is that it will most definitely burn the white parts of the leaf. But if you have a greener albo, because some are, I do have a greener one that is currently like sitting in bright direct light and it's doing okay. I also have a whiter one that is pushing out all white leaves. It just pushed out an all white leaf, which I'll insert, and that one, like, it'll have its all white leaf and it'll look gorgeous, and then it starts to die out and then like dry out and that white leaf dries out. And I actually, before I chopped my syngonium up, it used to do a thing where it would have an all white leaf and then a variegated leaf and an all white leaf. And those leaves weren't dying as quickly, I think, as the ones that are in bright direct light. So my recommendation would be bright indirect light, but it's not going to not grow in bright direct light. And yeah, I think those are all my care tips for my syngonium albo. I really think it's a gorgeous plant. It's really a pleasure to grow. It's low fuss. It's one I recommend. So if you are looking for this plant and you're in South Africa, be sure to check my Instagram account where I will have a couple of these selling. But that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you gained a thing or two to help you take better care of your syngonium albo if you have one, or to prepare to take care of one if you're going to get one. I will see you next time. Bye.